Hey everyone, this is Alyssa and I'm with Sam. We are Two is Company ADHD. Today we're going to be talking about overwhelm and overcommitment. You know, those projects that you take on and the other projects that you take on and then the new ideas and then they kind of all just pile up. Sam, do you have any of those?
Yes, you ask. Yes, I do. In fact, the reason that we thought of doing this topic today is because Alyssa and I were texting earlier today about how much we tend to take on, how much is on our plates. And I realized that this is definitely a thing that comes up time and again in ADHD communities and with my ADHD friends. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk a bit about this tendency that we have, and why do we have it. Overwhelm is a topic that comes up time and again in support groups and on podcasts and whatever. But I don't necessarily think that it's like very explicitly been linked often to this overcommitment. Yeah, and Alyssa explained that a little bit already, but I think for me, I have a tendency to take on lots of projects because I get excited about lots of things. And I also think, oh, I have this cool idea. I better take it on now or I'm going to forget it and I'm never going to do it.
Yep. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit before where I have this project that's been like just sitting on my shoulders for over a year. And because I haven't had that big like spark of how I'm going to do it, I just have this idea. I mean, it hasn't turned into this is what I'm going to do. This is what it's going to look like. Here are the steps to do it. It's sort of just been like sitting on my shoulders and I haven't actually done it. And I was saying to Sam also that I counted how many projects I have that I'm actively trying to work on every day. There is 16. And like before I actually like wrote them all down. I was actually trying to juggle them in my head all day, every day, and no wonder I wasn't actually getting anything done.
Yeah, so it sounds like you were spending like a lot of time and energy just like thinking about how much you had to do. Um, is that right?
Maybe like not even just like thinking about how much I had to do. It was just like, what should I do? Oh, okay. I can't really decide, so I'm going to check my email. Okay, I'll check my Instagram. Okay, I'll check my Facebook. Okay, now I have a meeting. Okay, I'll check that again later. And it was like, okay, I'm going to do one little tiny thing out of this big ginormous project because I can't decide what I want to do. And it was just like jump, 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 jump. And I never actually finished anything. And then, you know, sometimes like after I wrote down that list of projects, for example, I realized, oh my gosh, I haven't even touched that project in 2 months. I paid this huge fee so that I would be able to do it. And I haven't followed through. I just kind of forgot about it.
So why do you think that is?
In that case, there was something getting in my way. Um, it was both emotional and there was also tasks that I needed to accomplish that involved other people that I just never activated on. Um, so I actually coached myself through each of these projects and I made a list of questions that I had to ask myself for each project so that I could refer back to it. And then at the bottom, I wrote action steps of what I needed to do so that it would be super, super clear.
Cool. Um, well, I will be keen to get an update from you to see how that's going, Alyssa, in the future. Um, I was thinking that also that one of the reasons that I've tended to take on a lot of stuff, I think, is that I like many people with ADHD, have a tendency to get bored really easily. I think it's really like my default state. Bored and anxious. I think they're often very related. And I think that there's somehow at certain points in my life been this like sweet spot of busyness, where I feel kind of in flow state, like I'm doing enough things, I'm progressing in all of those things, and I wouldn't actually be as activated in a different situation where I had fewer things to do. So often I've gone through periods of my life where I have more than one job. Right now I have 4 freelance type jobs. In high school, there was one point I had 3 jobs and I was going to high school. But yeah, at various points in my life, most of my adult life, I should say, and probably a lot of high school, I like that balance did not stay for very long. I went very quickly and suddenly into overwhelm territory, where I felt overcommitted, overwhelmed, and just sort of like froze. So I wouldn't actually make progress on any or most of the things that I was doing. Or I was kind of just going through the motions and like doing things half-heartedly, not half-heartedly, but half-assedly, just to like feel like I was making some progress, even if it wasn't like meaningful progress I was satisfied with.
And you said something earlier that really caught my attention. You said that you get bored. And so like how do you know the difference between getting bored and being stuck?
That's a really good question. I think that for me, being bored doesn't necessarily have like really strong negative emotions attached to it, like specific negative emotions. But I will feel like, oh, I'm in an environment or a situation where I don't feel stimulated. And if I think about the types of things that I enjoy doing and find really stimulating, I don't have access to those things in this situation. And that's interesting. Now I'm like, wait, is that being bored or being stuck? Because that sounds more like being stuck. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think I'm going to think about that and try to clarify. I'm wondering, where did that question come from?
It's personal. That like, so whenever I start a new task or I'm trying to do something and then I notice I like, I'm trying to work on something, I pick up my phone or I open a new tab or, I just start daydreaming. I noticed in myself that it's because I'm stuck on whatever I'm trying to do and it just got hard.
Okay, maybe what the difference is for me between being bored and being stuck, because this sounds so super familiar, is like my level of interest in whatever the task or whatever the like content of the task is. So for example, I've been really stuck on this conference session handout that I've been working on. And I am super passionate about this particular topic. I'm really excited about the session, but I am really stuck on the handout. And I've been doing that thing where I open lots of tabs, or I'll like go and like clean something that I never would otherwise clean. It suddenly feels like it's urgent. And I know I can get it done. So I think I have a tendency towards like, oh, well, it's almost like it's like a comforting distraction that feels like some level of productivity. So I get a little zap of dopamine from it.
Yeah. Have you heard of procrastivity?
Oh, yes. I actually don't normally use that word, although it's a good one. But I think that so many people with ADHD, while we're procrastinators, like I procrastinate by doing something that I feel is productive or in some way.
Yeah.
And it's just not the right thing to be working on at that particular moment.
But at least we're getting something done. And you just said something too again that like, so is the boredom a lack of emotional attachment?
Yeah, perhaps. Like it's just like a lack of like a feeling of excitement, like the lack of spark. And maybe that's also maybe that's also part of being stuck. But I associate stuck more with like thinking that I'm like not like having doubts, for example, that I am capable of putting together an interesting handout, that I have somehow like the skills or the wherewithal or whatever to come up with something that's interesting and informative to other people in that particular format. But I'm certainly not bored with it. It's almost like the opposite of it, where I'm like almost like I'm so focused on it that that I like get sort of like I get stuck on it because I attribute so much meaning to it that I can't just do the thing. And I go down this hole of, asking myself whether I'm capable of doing it repeatedly or doubting myself. But boredom does not feel like doubting myself or doubting my capability. It feels like, I don't even know how to explain it. It feels terrible.
I wonder if I feel irritated when I feel bored. Like sometimes I'm like in a situation and I think it might be that I'm bored, but I get like really irritated. This is the weirdest part. I want to eat. I just want to have some food.
See that? I mean, you might say, "Oh, that's weird," but like that, like people eat out of boredom. People drink alcohol too much out of boredom. People gamble out of boredom. People do lots of like compulsive behaviors or obsessive behaviors, or even like rumination, because they're understimulated.
Totally. Yeah.
The low-hanging fruit to occupy ourselves.
Yeah, and I noticed that my go-tos, like when I feel that way, are like chips, popcorn, all the stuff that like makes noise and is crunchy and is kind of like exciting to eat. Nuts. Like I love eating that stuff when I'm bored.
Huh.
Yeah.
Sure, I do all sorts of things like that now that I think about it. And I do them a lot like when I'm overwhelmed too. So where I just like I need some form of like comfort, and that kind of thing can provide it.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what's interesting too? I noticed that when I eat like chips, for example, all of a sudden I'm starting to take deep breaths. So I'm like crunching, but I'm like chewing.
Wait, what? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It's just like all of a sudden I can breathe because I got my chips. I don't
know. Yeah. Okay. So going back to our topic of overcommitment and overwhelm, I think that we've already talked about this, but I'm not sure because we did 2 attempted recordings before this that were very brief. But yeah, I think one of the reasons that I have taken on a lot of projects in my life is like too many things at once, is that I am seeking like this elusive feeling of reward. And if I don't get it from like the 2 projects I'm working on, I think of this other new thing and I get really excited about it. I'm like, oh, if I'm excited about it, I will feel reward if I do it.
Right. And what you just said, so like you start the project, then you get to a part that's really hard, so you don't have dopamine anymore. Mm-hmm. And then you think of this new thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, bright, shiny, new dopamine. And then you get to the hard part, and then you get stuck. And yeah, it's just like this vicious cycle of incompletion. And then we have that on our shoulders. Okay, I have all this incompletes. Now I have this added fear of failure when I start a new project.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then that can turn into like our personal wall of awful, thinking, oh, I shouldn't even bother to take this thing on because there's no way that I'll be able to follow through on it. I've definitely had periods like that in my life. And that, of course, is like, if I don't try to do something, then I will definitely like not be able to do that thing. So yeah, then it sort of turns into almost like it's a negative like cycle, and it's almost like a self-sabotaging cycle as well. Wow, this is a huge topic.
It is. And I just thought of something too that we didn't even talk about, which is, I just need to do this and then everything will be okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We were talking about this before the recording.
Right.
Yeah, I think I've noticed this tendency in people with ADHD, and I think I've had it to some extent in myself, where I'm just like, oh, we need to find the right organizational system. I just need to get the right journal, or the right bullet journal, and then I'll be motivated to do it. And being motivated means I will actually do it, right? And kind of, we're always looking for like, what's the secret? What's the brain hack? What's the life hack that is going to like see me through?
Yeah.
That is going to be like the missing piece I've been looking for.
If I could just organize my apartment, then I will be rich. Like, what? Those two like do not go hand in hand at all, but we actually tell ourselves this stuff, I just need to have this done, and then I will have like this huge ginormous thing that's amazing. Well, there's a huge gap between those things, but we actually rationalize with ourselves that this will equal this. And we're kind of being ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, but also like I've seen people do that and be like, oh, my house, I just need to get my house in order. And they'll spend like months trying to do that, or hours depending on what the situation is, and eventually it takes them, like, it's exhausting and it takes way longer than they think it will, and so then they give up, so then they don't achieve the thing that they wanted to achieve. And if they attribute like a clean house with making lots of money, then they'll think, well, I can't make lots of money then either, can I?
Yeah, no, exactly. And then they have this huge sense of failure when the failure has nothing to do with that thing that they've associated it with, which sucks. It's really unfair.
And also, like, if they think, oh, then I'll be able to make lots of money, then to me, I'm like, well, why do you want to make lots of money? Like, what is that going to do for you? Like, what are you actually seeking that you think lots of money will be able to get you?
Right. And like, it's like money equals happiness. Well, does it? Yeah. And now we're going down a rabbit hole, and we're actually out of time.
This has been an extraordinarily interesting and very, very ADHD rabbit hole type of conversation. So
yeah. And not even just like a rabbit hole. We've been like jumping all over the place like rabbits, and then got stuck.
And then there are squirrels involved, and
there's always squirrels. That could be our logo.
What, a squirrel? Or a rabbit?
A squirrel. Yeah. Oh gosh.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks, Alyssa, for being such a sparkling conversational partner. And yeah, we took a few weeks off, but we are back on the wagon again.
We're back on the train.
Oh yeah, the train, not the wagon. And this is 2 is company, ADHD, 3 is number crowd. we post our video episodes typically every Friday. And yeah, we're excited to have you guys involved in our next episode. I think we'll be making a separate announcement about that. But yeah, we're keen to have you guys involved. So watch this space.
Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.